Welcome to Dalarna, the cultural heart of Sweden, where children play alongside roaring waterfalls, lush meadows are filled with wildflowers, and there are untouched forests as far as the eye can see. Where ruins were used as recently as 100 years ago, medieval buildings are adorned with Viking art, and old traditions are preserved for the next generation to enjoy. Yet amongst these idyllic valleys, the status of one tradition is a point of contention between the locals and the Swedish government. In one particular area, the locals speak Älvdalska, an archaic tongue that not only preserves linguistic features from Old Norse, but incredibly those from the very first Germanic language that emerged around 500 BC. A century ago, 90% of the population spoke Älvdalska, but by 2008, it was just 34%. Why? It's the result of Swedification, the policy of sending ethnic minority children to boarding schools where they could only speak Swedish. This language policy applied to all Swedish children, who were shamed and beaten if they were caught speaking anything other than standard Swedish. Consequently, as parents, they would often not pass on their language to their children. Swedification was later abolished, and today there are just 3,000 speakers of Älvdalska. However, despite widespread academic consensus, the Swedish government refuses to recognize Älvdalska as a language and regards it as a dialect. The people of Dalarna have a long history of rebellion, so it's no surprise that, in 1984, one man began a campaign to preserve the language. Yet, even with the advent of social media, their plight is virtually unknown outside of linguistic circles. Until now. 40 years after the fight back began, join me as I travel to Älvdalen and experience the history, culture, and Älvdalska firsthand. We'll explore the politics around languages and dialects in an increasingly globalized world, where one language dies every 40 days. We'll also examine the grassroots initiatives keeping Älvdalska alive and talk to the locals who share what it means to them. And by the end, you can decide for yourself. Is Älvdalska a language or a dialect?
Dalsken är ju är så närmast hjärtat.
Älvdalska, the language of the rebels.